the former chairperson of Pakistan Stock Exchange, I must say, who I have always admired for his commitment to this platform. And now he is not only looking at the PSX, but is a leading broker for general business, but also a very diversified industrial leader. Both go hand in hand, as I see. You generate business, it comes out here. Together, I recall those days when myself and Arif Habib worked together to negotiate this transaction of $250 million, which all went to Ministry of Finance, much to your annoyance, except for 4 million technical assistance. We actually pushed for the unification of this exchange. There were different platforms, Lahore, Islamabad, even Quetta was going to have an exchange, because I believed that we needed to ensure better transparency and price discovery, single price discovery. We also went through the pains of demutualization and corporatization of the exchange, which basically means having the members let go their membership and transfer that to the exchange in form of corporatization and demutualization. It seems very normal today, but it was very path-breaking in those days. And there was, of course, resistance in the trenches, but with your leadership, I remember, Arif Saab, you single-handedly worked with your colleagues, and then you came to Manila to negotiate the transaction, and I really appreciated that. Of course, there has been an operationalization of high-powered automated system and trading and surveillance frameworks, along with the strengthening of exchanges, custodial governance, investor confidence, and so forth. Let me come to women. Female workforce stats speak for the challenge we are faced with. Our current level of female labor force participation is 22.5% relative to aspiration of 45% projected by Pakistan's Development Vision 2025, which is steered by the Planning Ministry. The vision has embedded 5 components into its objective. Need to promote women's self-worth, allow them right to determine their choices, improve access to opportunities and resources, and facilitate right and power to control their lives and ability to influence social change. Women bring more social change than men, as evidence is proving. Lately, I read that National Assembly and Senate has started its accountability as a result of the Women's Day events. It's calling for the government to now report on progress and actions to be taken to achieve this agenda. I'm sure there will be a flurry of activity to fill in the matrix of what they have achieved in the government. SCCP will not have trouble because SCCP has been a great advocate of women, and it has always requested for women to be included in the companies and the board. So my tremendous respect for Akif Saeed Saab, who's represented today by Musarraf. I have to lay down a few pointers to make this speech, which is a bit long, a bit more punctuated. First, it has to be recognized that overall public participation in stock exchange has been low and it remains low. Lower investor participation is because of low level of literacy, complexity, and lack of depth and breadth of investor outreach, and public's lack of understanding and misgivings against PSX. You couldn't have a better platform, but still people are worried where their money is going and all that, while we, I think, are a very decent custodian of managing people's investor protection interest. Scenario for women remains a serious concern as their share in UIN is barely 10%. I had to check and verify this number a few times, including from the MD. I, of course, asked our colleague here. Second, gravity of these dismal figures is illustrated by Pakistan's statistics that capture wide gender disparity. Even though women account for almost half of the population, Pakistan's men constitute 78% of the workforce and women 22.74%, well below the world average of 52.6%. Look at the difference in Pakistan. Pakistan faces economic, human capital, political, legal, and climate challenges. And there are 55 unbanked accounts. And there are millions of people who get displaced and dislocated because of the climate vulnerabilities. Pakistan is below sea level, and situation is going to get aggravated as Indus River changes its course. My third point is reversing these trends and injustice is a tall order, but an imperative. Evidence on women's tremendous contribution reveals the high opportunity cost of their exclusion from workforce and finance. As silent workers, women are unaccounted for also in the statistics. As you may know, the count is not the most perfect count because of the definitional issues. Policymakers and corporate players have a responsibility and should accelerate integration and action. Let me take a minute to quote somebody who I have worked with and have tremendous regard for, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And the quote is, "Let us be guided by the voices of women and rights worldwide. When women and girls rise, everyone thrives." It's a very simple quote, but a very powerful quote. Fourth, I'd like to turn to the Managing Director of the PSX, Farooq Sabswari, who was selected through a very tough competitive process. He earned it. He joined PSX a few months back, and he's already developed a strategic plan to define the way forward. Sequentially, he's conducted survey of a half a dozen better performing regional exchanges and has drawn some very pertinent lessons for defining the way forward for Pakistan based on these exchanges. And these are exchanges which are neighboring exchanges, and they have achieved much more than what we have managed to. Key lessons from the survey reveal that the progressive exchanges work on democratizing access to capital market, to engage retail investors. Notable, most successful regional exchanges focus on, and these are like the threads that have been picked up from the literature review that Farooq's team has conducted. One, attracting retail investors through IPOs, and this was illustrated recently by the IPO that was brought to the table in the last gong ceremony, and there were lots of women investors in that. Introduction of new products and services, which Farooq's team is working on, easing access through technology and simplified processes. These measures need to encompass clarity on process and procedures, make sure women understand, and particularly those who are going to invest in stock exchange. We also need to offer a robust investor protection framework, which we have, But of course, if we fund it more, there'll be more comfort. Incorporating these insights of the regional survey, PSX plans to build its brand image, promote trust, access, and education across universities, corporate sector, and malls for its investors. Every distinguished mall or a small mall needs to have a platform. I recently read that some of the banks have established a women's branch. Some have established special counters for women. We have to be innovative because not everybody just walks openly into these places. So we need education across universities, corporate sector, and as I said, malls for its investors, notably fintech and online presence of exchanges and brokers, as well as banker-to-broker programs would help remove barriers and promote investment in trade equities. If every platform has a good person who can explain to the women investors the mechanics of it, also ETFs, derivatives, currency, and now what's interesting is that there is direct mutual fund distribution, which is helping to tap the market directly, and a lot of investors are going on that front.